Bing Crosby. Who is it?
Eartha Kitt.
Bertha?
Earth.
Eartha. That's what you should have named your daughter, Dave.
Okay.
Ready?
This is the Beach Boys.
There's 1 point.
Okay.
Little Saint. Yes. I have 1 point.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
It's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah, this is Motley Crue.
Burl Ives.
What are these names?
Win!
Burl Ives.
Next point wins.
Next point wins. Okay.
Get away! Get away!
Is it I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas?
No! It's the Hawaiian Christmas song.
Sounds like SpongeBob.
Malik.
Malakulukilaka!
Mele Kalikimaka.
That's what I said.
Does anyone want to guess who sings it?
Some Hawaiian guy.
Bing Crosby.
No!
What's going on, everybody? Merry Christmas. Welcome to Rocky. We're so glad that you're here. Hey, we're going to sing to Jesus. So let's lift our voices. Sing, "Oh come, all you faithful." Oh come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of ages. Oh come, let us adore Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Well, Merry Christmas again. We are so happy that you guys are here. Hey, turn to somebody next to you and tell them if you prefer white lights or colored lights. Well, we are going to continue singing here, and we're going to have just kind of a little bit of like a living room feel, okay? So if you guys would, enjoy it, we would love for you to sing along with us as we do, and just kind of sing some Christmas carols. Have a little bit of a warm vibe, Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
I love it. Okay, let's go for it.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hey.
The herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness, light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. While he lays his glory by, born that had no born and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs implore, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Oh, 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 He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of His righteousness and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love. Oh, 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 joyful, we adore Thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before Thee, opening to the sun above. All Your works with joy surround You, earth and heaven reflect Your rays. Stars and angels sing around You, center of unbroken praise. Joyful, joyful, we adore Thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before Thee, opening to the sun above. Oh, 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 Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare Him room. In heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till He appeared and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus raise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Christ is the Lord. Oh, praise his name forever. His power and glory evermore proclaim. His power and glory evermore proclaim.
So good to sing with you. Go ahead and grab a seat. Welcome to Rocky. My name is Matt, I'm one of the pastors on staff here. And happy Christmas Eve. We're going to be more excited that you're hanging out with us. And here's the deal. We know this. We realize that on Christmas Eve, we have a lot of visitors and guests who maybe normally aren't with us on a Sunday morning. But you got to know, just as a church, we're so excited that you would choose to spend a little bit of your Christmas Eve with us. And we're just excited you're here. And you just got to know this too, that you're always welcome back on a Sunday morning, except for the next 2 Sundays. And here's why. Because we're going to be online tomorrow for Christmas and also online only the Sunday after that. We're giving our staff a little bit of break over the next 7 to 8 days. But then again, as we get into the new year, we'd love to have you back. We're going to start a brand new series that has everything to do with this idea of grit. So we hope to see you there. And I just want to brag on our church a little bit. Every once in a while when I'm out in the community, people will ask me, hey, what's your church all about? What's Rocky all about? And here's the deal. Our mission statement is out there on the wall, out in the lobby, and it simply says to know Jesus and love like him. So we're a church. We're just a group of people that are like-minded about Jesus, and we're just trying to love people like Jesus loved people. And we're trying to gain influence in the community that we live because we care about the community. We want this community to be the best that it can be, which is why we're involved in our schools and businesses and when we're building relationships with people. Because here's the deal. Now, I hope this doesn't happen, but if our church ever closed its doors, I hope that people in our community would be bummed. That's the kind of church that we're trying to be. So anyways, just thanks for hanging out with us. At the end of service today, we're going to take our Christmas Eve offering. If you're a guest or visiting, man, don't worry about giving anything. But if you're a partner here, we'd love for you to participate in that. And here's what you do. Here's what you need to know, that if you do jump in with that today, that money is going to be used to help us just move our mission forward, to love people just like Jesus loved people. So if you jump in, thanks for doing that. But it's Christmas time, and here's the deal. The older I get, the more I get into Christmas, and I just want to get a vibe of the room a little bit. So just real quick, right now, if you love Christmas, make some noise right now. If you love Christmas, go ahead. All right. Okay, good. Whew. Feel better already. Glad you're here. We're like-minded. I just want to test it out a little bit more. If you've got some lights on your house right now, make some noise. Have you got some Christmas lights on your house? Okay, good. About half. Okay, that's all right. It's the 4:30 crowd. I get it. All right, here's the deal. If you have come to the conclusion that eggnog is the best beverage this time of the year, go ahead and make some noise right now. Eggnog. Yeah, okay. A little bit less. I get it. Okay, if you think that eggnog with a little something extra in it is the best, go ahead and make some noise right now. Yeah. Talking about cinnamon, that's good. It's good. Okay, if you've got all your gifts, they're purchased and wrapped under the tree right now, make some noise. You're ready to go? Wow, more than I thought. Now, okay, next question. You're in church, so make sure you tell the truth, okay? But you, make some noise if you still have a present or two that you got to go buy tonight. Go ahead and make some noise right now. Yeah. Yeah. There's always one, I'm going to keep it short for you tonight, all right? I'll get you out of here. and go find that deal. Okay, anyways, here's the deal. I'm glad you're here, but here's the thing, and as a church, we've been talking about this last couple weeks, because Christmas is awesome. There's just something about Christmas, draws us in. Just draws us in. We just love this time of year. And I love everything that I just talked about. I mean, I'm all in. I love it. Gifts and trees and lights and friends and family and eggnog. I'm all in. But here's the thing. I got to be careful, and you do too, that we don't miss out on the most important thing of Christmas. And so here's my encouragement for you. Maybe, next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to talk a little bit, and the band's about to play you a song, but here's my encouragement, that I know you got a lot going on. You got stuff going on, after this service. You got all cool Christmas traditions happening tonight and tomorrow, and you got a whole, hopefully, a couple of days off, or maybe even a week off. And I just hope that this Christmas, just like any other Christmas, that you enjoy all of that, and at the same time, you don't miss out on what we just believe is the most important thing. Because here's the deal. I mean, if you're like, why am I here? And some of you don't even want to be here, but you're here. All right, so you're here. And the reason why you're here is because of this. 2,000 years ago, there was a baby that was born. And for whatever reason, okay, the world can't forget it. They can't forget about it. The world just keeps talking about it. That's why we're here. And I just hope, my prayer for you is that this Christmas season, maybe for the first time or first time in a long time, or maybe you just get refreshed with just the wonder of this crazy story. And if you don't believe in God, maybe it's just, it's a Christmas where you maybe just ask the question, could it be true? I mean, did really the Son of God come down to this earth? And if it is true, what does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? The band's got this song, and I mean, the lyrics are so good. It just reminds us again what the most important thing is. And you just sit back, relax, enjoy it, look at the lyrics. Then I'll come up afterwards. We'll talk a little bit more about the Christmas story. Enjoy this.
Behold, the King has come, divinity incarnate, creator of the world, breathing our air. Behold, what light has come, in the dark cannot contain it. The Savior of the world is finally here. Oh, come, let us adore Him. Come, let us adore Him. For He alone is worthy. Christ the Lord.
stuff. Again, hey, I'm glad that you're here. And here's the deal. This Christmas Eve, I want to do something a little bit different. Usually this is when the pastor gets up and, you know, he's got the Christmas message. He's going to preach a little bit. But instead of like preaching, I just want to have a conversation with you. And I want to have a conversation with you about something that I've been thinking about, because something happened. And if you grew up in church, maybe this has happened to you before. But for those of us who kind of, you know, we kind of read the Bible on a regular basis, you can read like a scripture, 100 times, and then you read it like the 101st time. And for whatever reason, there was something in that 101st time that you just saw that maybe you didn't see before, just something really stood out to you. And it was interesting kind of getting ready for this Christmas Eve service that I was reading the Christmas story again. And guys, I'm telling you, I've read the Christmas story hundreds of times. I mean, I've grown up in church. I work at a church. You know, I've preached, Christmas, many times. And there was just this one thing that just kind of stood out to me this Christmas that for whatever reason and in previous years just didn't really stand out to me. And here's just a rule of thumb for me, that when I feel like God's, impressing something on me and I'm kind of wrestling with something, that usually when I talk about it, it's helpful for other people. And so that's what I want to do today. I just want to have a conversation about something that just really stood out to me. And I hope at the end of this message or this conversation, you would go, man, that was really helpful for me too. So here's where the verse is. It's in Luke chapter 1, and Luke, he's one of the gospel writers. He's one of the guys who tells us the story of Jesus. And in chapter 1, he gives us the story before the story of Christmas. The story of Christmas is about Jesus being born in Bethlehem, but before that, there's this whole other story that's happening. In fact, in Luke chapter 1, there's a conversation between Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Gabriel, the angel. Where this angel shows up and starts, letting Mary know, hey, your life is about to drastically change because God has this incredible plan for your life. And then there's this one phrase, I'm just telling you, it just stood out to me this year. So this is Luke chapter 1, starting in verse 26. This is Luke giving us the backstory to the story of Christmas. It says, in the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy. And Elizabeth is a relative of Mary. She's got a whole nother crazy story going on in her life. And her backstory, she's 80-some years old, and she's also pregnant. Another miracle. And so Luke is just kind of giving us, again, the timetable for when all this is happening. It keeps going. It says, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a town in Galilee, to a virgin pledged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. And the angel went to her and said, greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you. Now, again, I'm just telling you, I've read verse 28 many times. But this year, it stood out to me a little bit differently because I just started thinking, of all the ways that this angel who is, being sent by God to really visit Mary, who's a nobody from nowhere. I mean, Nazareth, we talked about this last week in our service. I mean, Nazareth just wasn't even on the map at this point in history. I mean, the only reason why you even know the town Nazareth, because that's where Jesus grew up. It's where Mary's from. I mean, Mary's a teenage girl. She's a nobody from nowhere. And yet an angel shows up right in the middle of Mary's life. And of all the things that the angel could say, he starts out with this: Mary, you are highly favored. I mean, look at it again, verse 28. Look at it again. Greetings. You are highly favored, meaning that when God is kind of like, looking down on you, Mary, he thinks that, or he knows, or he believes that you are one of his favorites. You are highly favored, which got me thinking. And I never even thought about this before. I'm telling you, until we started getting ready for this Christmas Eve message. But it led me to a question this Christmas, and here it is. Does God have favorites? Because if he does, I want to be one of them. You know what I mean? Does God have favorites? Now, think about it. If we are made in the image and likeness of God, and you have favorites, and so do I, then wouldn't it make sense that God also has favorites? We have this in common. All of us have favorites. Let me give you a couple of my favorites, okay? And here's the cool thing. Your favorites might be different than my favorites, or maybe they're the same. I don't know. We'll find out. But if we were hanging out, like after this service, it's Christmas Eve, we're hanging out, and we were just chit-chatting, and you were like, Matt, what's your favorite chicken sandwich, Boom, Chick-fil-A. You just know that, okay? This is a Chick-fil-A church. I'm a big Chick-fil-A fan. Although Popeyes, I see you, and your spicy chicken sandwich is getting close, okay? But it's Chick-fil-A. That's just my favorite chicken sandwich. It may not be your favorite, but it's my favorite because we all have favorites. Or if you said, Matt, what's your favorite candy? And again, if you're part of our church, I've chatted about this before because my favorite candy is Butterfinger. That's just my favorite candy. It's not the most popular candy, but it's my favorite candy. You've got different favorites. In fact, I chat about Butterfingers throughout the year. And on Halloween, there's always several kids that after Halloween come, they tithe their candy and they give me all their Butterfingers. And I look at them and say, your sins are forgiven. Okay, that's what I tell them. It's just my favorite candy. It may not be your favorite candy, but it's my favorite candy. Or if you said, hey, what's your favorite pizza topping? And this one's really unpopular because people hate this topping. I just don't find a lot of people who are like me like this, but my favorite pizza topping is mushrooms, of course. Yeah, ooh, whoa, you're like, whoa. I mean, you can leave if you want, it's up to you. I mean, is it better or worse than the ham and pineapple people? I don't know, but it's mushrooms, we're those people that are like, what do you want on your pizza? And you're like, mushrooms. And they're like, ugh, it's like, but I love it. I mean, I don't even like vegetables that much, but I like the weird one. It's just good. I can't even tell you why. It's just one of my favorites. Or if you say, okay, Matt, it's Christmas time. What's one of your favorite Christmas movies? Or what's your favorite Christmas movie? It's interesting because people are all over the map. In fact, I read an article this past week that said in our country, Die Hard is the number 2 favorite Christmas movie. Now, some of you are wondering, is Die Hard really a Christmas movie? And I'm going to tell you the truth right now. It is. It is. Yes, it definitely is. It's not my favorite. But if it was yours, I totally get it. I'd get behind it. But my favorite Christmas movie is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's my favorite. Yeah. I could quote you lines from there that would be totally inappropriate. That's how much I love it. Every year, my wife and I on Christmas Eve, we watch this movie while we drink eggnog and get ready for Christmas morning. It's just one of the things that we do. I just love that Christmas movie. And by the way, Elf is close. Elf is close. Yeah, someone's very excited about that. It's very close. Okay. Now, or how about this? If somebody said, I'm a big sports guy, we talk about favorite sports teams and all this, but if somebody said to me, Matt, who's your favorite quarterback? And again, if you're a Bronco fan in here, I know this is tough right now, okay? I know this is tough. But if you're like, hey, who's your favorite quarterback? Honestly, really honestly, it'd probably be this guy. It'd probably be Peyton Manning. It would. I like Peyton Manning. He's fun. One person's very excited. I think he's fun. He was fun to cheer for and to root for, and he got you guys, a Super Bowl. And I'm not even a Broncos fan, but I just think he's an easy guy to cheer for. And let's be honest, Bronco fans, what do you want for Christmas? Okay, so anyways, we all have favorites. And so if you have favorites and I have favorites, then it's a legitimate question. Does God have favorites? Does God have favorites? Certainly things, Luke, who's the writer here, in Luke chapter 1 certainly thinks, the way he's recording the story of what Gabriel said. And if it's true, I'm just telling you, if this is true, if God really does have favorites, and all of a sudden this is a really big discussion. Because if he does, I want to be one of his favorites. And my guess is you do too. So how do we determine? How do we determine if you're actually one of God's favorites or not? And this is interesting because I've heard preachers preach on this idea before, never at Christmas. But I've heard preachers preach that if you want to have the favor of God, you'll know if you have it. If it kind of boils down, and there's more than this, but just kind of these two things, which is wealth and health. You know if you have God's favor, if you have money and stuff, and if you're healthy. Which means if you're in the service right now, if that's the filter, if that's how we're measuring if you actually are one of God's favorites, you're doing pretty good. Because all of you, I'm guessing all of you, if not most of you, drove in a car to get here tonight. Which in the context of the world, if you own a car, you're rich. If you ever go hang out in a slum somewhere in the world, one of the first questions they'll ask you, because they're trying to figure out how much money you have, they'll just say, hey, do you have a car? And you go, yeah. And they'll be like, what? And then I always say this, I actually have 2 cars. And they look at me and go, for what? What do you need 2 for? And then I'll even say this, I even have a house for my car. What? It's a garage. You just, what? They're just blown, wow, you're so rich, Or the fact that just about all of you have eaten food today, and you're probably going to eat way too much food after this. Pretty rich. Or that all of you have clothes on. You're doing good. You're doing good out there. You got clothes, you've eaten, And you drove in a car today, which means you're, in the context of the world, you're pretty rich. And if you're rich, then you must be favored by God, right? Or, most of you, you seem pretty healthy. I don't hear anybody like hacking a lung out there. You're pretty good. So you're wealthy and you're healthy. But if that's true, then what about, the 4 billion people in the world that live on less than $5 a day? What about them? Are they just not on God's favorite list? Or what about the people who struggle with health? What about my buddy who a year ago today called me up? He called me up Christmas Eve last year and left me a voicemail at 2 a.m. on Christmas Eve. What about him who left me a message? I didn't get it because I was sleeping, but then woke up at 4:30 and listened to the message, and here's what he said. Matt, I don't know how to tell you this, but she's gone. And he began to tell the story. And here was the story. This couple, they're a couple friends with my wife and I. We've been friends almost since the day we moved here. And over the night, going into Christmas Eve, my friend, his wife, suddenly and tragically died. Her heart just stopped. On Christmas Eve. Now there's my buddy who's widowed and he's got 3 kids. And I've had conversations with him throughout the whole year, and we've had some tough ones. And what am I supposed to say to that guy? That if health and wealth is what kind of determines your favor with God, then what do you say to him? Hey, sorry, bud, but your wife just wasn't on the favorite list. That's the only way we can explain it. Good luck. See, all of a sudden, this discussion, it's a really big deal. Does God have favorites? It would seem so, because Mary was one of them. Look at it just one more time. Look, chapter 1, verse 28. And the angel went to her and said, greetings, you are highly favored. You're on the favorite list, Mary. And the Lord is with you. And Mary was, look at this, greatly troubled at his words and wondered what kind of greeting this might be, because Mary's going, I don't know if you know me, but I'm a nobody from nowhere. So how in the world did I get on the favorite list? Then the angel doubles down. Verse 30, but the angel said to her, do not be afraid, Mary. You have, and again, look what he says, you found favor with God. Apparently, God has favorites, and Mary is one of them. Now, here's what's interesting. When you do kind of like a study on this idea of God's favorites throughout the, all the scriptures, Old Testament and New Testament, what you'll find is there are other biblical characters in the scriptures that God says also, you are my favorite. In fact, it happens several times throughout the whole Bible. And when you start looking, if you're trying to figure out, okay, what is the filter that God is using to determine who's on his favorite list, when you look at these biblical characters, they almost have nothing in common. They come from different backgrounds, different families, different narratives, different levels of wealth, different parts of history, different ethnicity. I mean, they have just about zero in common, except for this one thing. What you will begin to see in the narrative, that there is kind of, the way these relationships are framed up between God and his favorites, is that God is the Father. And these favorites are his kids. It kind of begins to help you understand the filter that God is looking through to determine who is making his favorite list. And here's the problem, because what I just did with you a couple minutes ago about some of my favorites, and every kind of favorite category I gave you, I picked my favorite because there can only be one favorite, right? And yet, really, that's a misconception, because you can have more than one favorite. In fact, you can have multiple favorites. I'll prove it like this. This is a picture of all my kids. They're all girls. That's why I got 4 of them. Okay, I kept trying for the boy. So I got 4 girls. And if you asked me, Matt, which one of your girls is your favorite? Do you know what I would say? I'd say, depends on the day. Some of you parents are like, I get it. Yeah. No. If you said to me, okay, Matt, you have 4 girls. Which one is your favorite, though? I'd say, well, all of them. All of them are your favorite. No. You just got to pick one. Like, pick one. Which one is your favorite? And I'd say, okay. Maybe my oldest. I mean, because she was my firstborn. I mean, when she was born, my life drastically changed. What I love about Raya is she's a pace setter for not just our family, but for her sisters. In fact, I mean, Raya is so driven. She's a junior this year in high school, and she's going to graduate. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, I was getting C's, you know? And this girl's blazing through. I mean, she's got the energy, and she's got the drive, and I'm just telling you, she's going to be a world changer, and she wants to be a teacher, and she just attacks life. She's a hard worker, and she talks a lot, okay? But if you say, which one's your favorite? I mean, she's probably my favorite. But then, okay, here's the thing. There's Lorelai, right? She's our second oldest. And Lorelai is the most compassionate person you will ever meet. She is so kind. She's the introvert of the family. But I'm telling you, she's got a huge heart, and she loves old people. If you're old in here, Lorelai loves you already. When you ask Lorelai, what do you want to do when you grow up? She goes, Dad, I just want to spend time with old people. I just want to drive old people around. I mean, she loves. She has a deep love for people. She's so compassionate. And if you ask me, Matt, which one's your favorite? Man, maybe it's Lorelai. I mean, she's probably my favorite. But here's the thing. Then there's Nora, okay? Nora is our third daughter, and Nora, she's a fireball. In fact, when Nora was growing up, she was always in trouble. She pushes life to the boundaries. And we would lose her all the time when she was little, and she's just so socially adept. I mean, she can talk circles around her sisters. She can school them. They have no idea what's going on. And I will look at her and go, come on, cut it out. Stop. Because she's just so socially aware. She's driven. She's also a hard worker. She's witty. She loves music. And I think, this is what I tell Nora, I think one day Nora could be a pastor. She's so well-spoken. She's probably my favorite. But then here's the thing. Then there's Cadence, though, We went for the fourth kid because we were hoping for a son, and we got Cadence. But I'm thankful, Wouldn't trade her for the world. She's the baby of the family. She's sweet. She's smart. She's cuddly. She's always around. She just wants to be with you. She says she's going to live with us forever, She loves bunnies. She's cute. She's probably my favorite. If you said, Matt, pick one though, which one's your favorite? I'd say all of them. See, my favor is on all of my kids. They're all my favorites. Do you want to know why? Because they're my kids. They're my kids. And if I'm the one who's gets to, choose the favorite, then I have the choice. I could pick one or I could pick all of them. And there's just natural disposition for me as a father towards my children. I love them not because of what they do, but because of who they are. This is the same thing in our relationship with God, because God says, I love you, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. God offers us this thing called grace. It's a gift. Grace just meaning he just naturally leans towards you. If you said, why does God love us? And I would just say, because God is your father. He can't help himself, just like I can't help but love my girls. I'll tell you this is a story I've told before, but this idea of this kind of just grace and just loving your children, which one's your favorite and all of them. This story I've told before, but Nora, again, she was just our, more wild child. She was just out there. And so many times, I come home from work and I, check in with my wife Vanessa. I'd be like, how was the day? And she'd just be like, Nora. I'd be like, oh, okay. What happened? She didn't listen today. She climbed up the fireplace, jumped off. I mean, we thought she'd be the girl with a broken bone by now. And we get to the end of the day, and I remember when my kids were younger and tinier, and we'd have a routine where we would tuck them in at bed at night, and we would pray until, we would read a Bible story. And see, one of the wounds from my childhood growing up is that my dad, he verbally never told me he loved me. And so I made it a point that when I had kids, I was just going to tell them I love them all the time. I mean, I just tell them I love you, love you, love you, love you. And so Nora, she's just tiny, and I'm putting her in the bed that night when she really didn't obey her mom at all, and she spent more time in her bedroom than any other room in the house. And I'm tucking her in, and we pray, we do the Bible story, and I tell her, Nora, I love you. And for whatever reason, this night I also said, and I'm proud of you. I love you, and I'm proud of you. And I'll never forget it. It stands out to me. And she looked right at me, and she went, Why? Because she knows that I know that day she had not behaved. She was actually in trouble quite a bit. And so she's trying to figure it out. She's trying to understand, why would her dad still love her even when she didn't obey? And I just loved it. I feel like God just kind of gave me this moment. It stood out to me. And I just looked right at her, and I didn't think about it for a sec. I said, Nora, I love you not because of what you did today. And if you could help a brother out and just listen to your mom, if you could do that tomorrow, do better, I would appreciate it, But here's the deal. My love isn't dependent on if you get it wrong or right today. Look, kid, I love you because you are my kid. And if I could choose any kid to be my kid in this whole world, I choose you. You're my favorite. See, I can't help myself because I'm your dad and you're my kid. And when you look at your relationship with God, this is the same idea. Paul, the Apostle Paul is one of those famous Christians in the New Testament. He writes about this idea of grace, or this idea of offering something that you really can't earn or buy or deserve, and yet it's given to you freely from God. In the same way, I offer my love to my children. Paul says this, Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 8, for it is by grace. God just looks at you differently. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. You know how you get on God's favorite list? When you believe in Jesus. In the same way that Mary believed in God. That when we believe in the story of Jesus, that Christmas is real, and then 33 years later, that Easter, the story of Easter is real, that Jesus died for your sins and for mine because he loves you. And then 3 days later came back from the dead, and what Jesus says is, look, this whole thing, God's love towards you is a gift. It's grace. And you can't earn it, you can't buy it, all you can do is find it. All you can do is kind of take it or receive it. And I run into so many people that are trying to get it on their own. And meanwhile, God says, no. If you would just take it and follow me, you would jump on my favorite list. Mary was highly favored. Again, she's a nobody from nowhere. And yet in her story, being on God's favorite list, it also leans into some other tensions that just about all of us face. Doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. In fact, I would say the next two things I'm about to talk about take up about 80% of all my kind of religious or spiritual conversations with people. Because all of us deal with these tensions. And here's what I want you to see. That Mary was highly favored, and yet she still had questions. She believed in God, but she still had questions, meaning that you can believe in God and still not have all the answers. Check it out. It's right in the Christmas story, Luke chapter 1, verse 31. Angel's talking to her and says, Mary, here's the Christmas plan. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you are to call him Jesus. And he will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. And he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever, and his kingdom will never end. And here comes the question. Again, she's highly favored. She believes in God. Look at this, verse 34. Mary says, well, how will this be? How is this going to work? And here's why. Because I am a virgin. And Mary may be a nobody from nowhere, but she knows how babies are made, and so do you. And she goes, I don't quite get it. I believe in God, but I'm not exactly sure, God, how this is all going to work. I got some questions for you. And the angel answered, here's the answer. The Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you, so the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she, who was said to be unable to conceive, is in her 6th month. Angel's leveraging another crazy story from Mary's crazy story. For no word from God will ever fail. Mary is on the favorite list, but she still has questions for God. But she eventually gets to this place, verse 38. She says this, I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. I don't even know if I all get it, but listen, if I had to choose to go with or without God, I'm going with. I'm going with you. I believe in God, but I still have questions. Which means you can believe in God. And you can still have questions. And I find, especially for young people, I mean, we just have an opposition that's so crafty, and it kind of presents itself like this, that if you can't get all your questions answered about God, then you shouldn't follow God. Friends, that couldn't be more farther from the truth. I've been a follower of Jesus a lot of my life. I'm a pastor. I rep him, I talk about him. I try to live the best life I can so that other people can see Jesus through my life. And if you ask me, Matt, do you still have questions about God or for God? The answer is yes. But you can believe in God and still have questions about God. The two can coexist at the very same time. And then here's the second thing. Mary is highly favored, but her life doesn't go exactly how she would probably like it to go. I mean, faith doesn't mean that we're going to have a perfect life. And sometimes there's preachers that will throw that out there. If you follow God, your life's just going to be all kicks and giggles and rainbows, you know. You want to have money, you should follow God. If you follow God, he'll give you all the money. If you want to be healthy and if you want to live forever, you should follow, you know. But if that's the case, Mary is on God's favorite list, and yet her life is not easy. It's meaningful. We're talking about it 2,000 years later, but it isn't easy. Think about her life just for a second. Then an angel shows up right in the middle of her teenage years. Tells Mary, you're gonna have God's baby. She starts showing signs of being pregnant. Everybody around town, also she's engaged to be married to this guy named Joseph. They're not allowed to be sleeping together during this season. In fact, if you did cheat or did get pregnant in this season during this betrothal period, that there were laws that say that, Mary could be stoned. So the people in town, I'm sure they're talking about it, like, did you hear about Mary? What happened? She's showing. She's pregnant? Yeah. Joseph is the daddy? No. Who is? Well, she says it's God. And they didn't believe it, and neither would you. That girl's crazy. I knew she was crazy. She gets pregnant. I mean, her life is almost on the line. It wasn't part of her plan for her life before an angel showed up. She's 9 months pregnant. Her and Joseph, they have to go back to the town of Bethlehem to register. So there's a census. They got to go back. They got to pay taxes. Mary's 9 months pregnant. She's going to sit on a donkey for 80 miles. You can't tell me that 9 months pregnant, riding a donkey for 80 miles, she's not looking up to God and going, is this the plan? There wasn't a better way to do this. She shows up to Bethlehem. It's time to deliver Jesus. There's no clean, hospital. She's surrounded by animals. Delivers the Son of God. Then right after Jesus is born, her and Joseph, they got to pack it all up and they got to get to Egypt because the guy who's the most powerful person in that area of the world, his name's Herod, he's killing babies. He hears this rumor about a king being born, He's so insecure about his own leadership, he starts killing babies. So they get out of there. They have to go to a whole nother country. Then, we don't exactly know the exact time, but somewhere like late teenage years for Jesus or early 20s, we learn that Joseph, Mary's husband, Jesus' earthly father, he dies. So now Mary is a single parent raising the Son of God. No big deal. Single parent raising multiple children, doing it all on her own. Jesus gets into his, mid-20s and he's doing Jesus stuff. He's out there preaching. He's a preacher. He was raised to be a carpenter, but he decides to go in a different direction. Doesn't want to be part of the family business. He's out there preaching. He's saying weird things. He's healing people. He's casting out demons. He freaks out his mom. Mary goes and finds him and says, will you just come home and be normal? And he says, I can't. This is why I'm here. And he'll launch his earthly ministry, and I'm sure that was super tough for Mary. And none of this would be the life that she probably would have picked before Gabriel came and talked to her. It certainly wasn't an easy life, but it was a meaningful one. In fact, it gets even more difficult than that because it'll be Mary who will be at the foot of the cross, where Jesus now is 33 years old, and because of what he's been preaching, because he's been preaching salvation by grace through faith, the religious people leverage the Roman judicial system and they have him essentially murdered. And Mary will be right there, watching her 33-year-old son being nailed to a Roman cross. And here's the thing, if Mary was here, wouldn't that be cool if I was like, Mary, come on out, you know? You're like, wow, she's shorter in real life. Yeah, okay, here she is. You know, if I just brought her out, was interviewing her a little bit, I was thinking about this week. What would I ask her? You know, if I just had one question, what would I ask her? And here's what I wrote down. If I could just ask her one question, I'd ask her something like this. Mary, what was more difficult to believe? That you would have a baby whose father is God? Or that this baby would one day need to die for the sins of the world? Either way, couldn't have been easy. To believe that God is all-knowing and all-powerful, and yet this is the story that you'll live out. And I don't know, she's not here, but if she was, you know. If you said, Mary, would you take it all back? Would you choose to do it differently? Because I'm sure when you were a 15-year-old girl in Nazareth, you didn't have any of this planned for your life. It certainly made your life more difficult. And I think she would say something like this, you're probably right. But I would rather choose a meaningful life over an easy life. See, I bet you she thought about this stuff a whole lot, because in Luke chapter 2, when you get in like the guts of the Christmas story, you get this one verse. I mean, shepherds are showing up. I mean, all kind of crazy stuff. Wise men are showing all this crazy stuff. There's this verse right in the middle of chapter 2, starting in verse 19. It says this, but Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. I bet you she'd say, it was worth it. Matt, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it. And now just think about this. Like, you know, even after, you know, Jesus dies and he comes back from the dead, and Mary's still living, right? And you know her, and you're like, hey, could we grab coffee, you know? And you're sitting there with Mary, and you're like, tell me the story again. I think this is where she'd start. She'd say, look, I was a nobody from nowhere, and then one day an angel showed up, and it said the craziest thing. What did it say? It said, greetings. Mary, you got to know you are highly favored. And I never thought about that before. That I was somehow on God's favorite list. That's why he chose me. And then if Mary was honest, because she's a real person, right? She'd probably say something like this, man, I couldn't tell you how many times through my story that I had so many questions for God. Just didn't line up. Mary, what'd you do? I just kept believing them anyways. Right? It just didn't make sense, but I didn't even, that whole virgin birth thing, I didn't get it. But it happened, and I just trusted God with it. I didn't understand, even at the moment he was being crucified, what was happening, but I trusted God with it. I believed him. I followed him, even when I had questions. And here's the deal, Matt, my life wasn't easy. If I could have chose something different before that day, I probably would have. But I quickly realized that this life isn't about trying to find the easy life. It's about trying to find the meaningful life. Mary was God's favorite. She was highly favored, and she still had questions. And her life wasn't easy. But here we are talking about it. And I find so many people either refuse to step into faith or walk away from the faith because they didn't get all their questions answered. And this life isn't as easy as they would have hoped for. And yet it's the people who continue to believe and follow, who are highly favored because they're a child of God and still believe in the midst of questions and difficulty. I got to tell you what happened this morning. Blew me away. Wasn't even part of this message till this morning. My buddy whose wife died a year ago, I got up this morning and I texted him. I said, hey, bud, I hope you know I love you. I'm in your corner. I'm praying for you today because I know today's going to be a tough day. And I didn't say this, but if I was honest, even in this situation, I got questions for God. Even makes me a little angry. Out of all the days that his wife would pass away, it'd be Christmas Eve. And I've had many times in conversation with God going, come on, what's the deal? And he texted me back, he said, buddy, thanks, I love you too. And then he said something, I mean, just blew me away. Just blew me away. He said, can you do me a favor? I'm like, yeah, I'm in. What do you need, you know? I'm thinking, you know, need me to go pick up something from the store, or need me to swing by and spend some time with you, or you know what? He goes, can you do me a favor? Today, when you speak at the Christmas Eve services, and then I'm just going to paraphrase what he said, but he essentially said, when you speak today, do me a favor. Make sure you make it all about Jesus. Whew. I just wasn't ready for that. Because if there's ever a guy in my life that I know that should have some questions for God, and who's going through a season of life he didn't plan for, it'd be this guy. And on the year anniversary of his wife's death, he's going to make sure you make it about the most important thing. Whew. A child of God, a son of God, who will continue to believe in the midst of questions, and in the midst of probably what's going to be the most difficult season of his life. Encourage this guy's faith. Mary's story encourages me, and I hope it encourages you. We can still believe, even when it doesn't all make sense. Are you on God's favorite list? Because here's the deal, you can be. If you believe in him and trust that he is who he says he is. And if that's true of you, then God says to you, you are highly favored. He loves you. And here's the deal, you want to know why? It's a gift of grace. Because you're his kid. You're his kid. Let's stand together. We're going to light some candles. I know we got some pyros out there, and you're ready to light something on fire. Here's the deal. I love this moment when we light candles together, because there's something very peaceful about this moment. We all bring into this room different worries and anxieties, but at least for the next couple of moments, we almost get like shielded from it, don't we? All is right. Especially during the Christmas season in this moment. And if you're not a follower of God, if you don't believe in Jesus, I just want to tell you something, that whatever moment we're about to have here, here's what I've experienced in my life, and many of you have experienced in your life. That level of grace and peace can go far beyond the next couple of minutes. If you would choose to lean in and believe that God has offered you a gift of grace that you can't earn or buy, but you can surely receive it. And you can live the rest of your life underneath the love of a Father. Let me pray for us. Father, this afternoon we thank you for the reminder of Christmas.